Okay, folks, this is another video in April, which is part of my preparation for the Compulsion Edinburgh. Lately, I had an idea that I wanted to do some custom painted giant dice. These are wooden dice. They are, I think, 40 mils on each side, and they are fun. They they roll. The paint on them, once it's been given a coat of polyurethane varnish, is well protected. So I can just paint on it like a regular painting, which is nice, so long as I want to do it relatively small. Painting inside the circle of your thumb and forefinger it's a small area. It demands, first off, a tiny brush and patience and steady hands. I have those things. Less patience, but I can make up for it with having a lot of brushes. So I did the pips on these. I probably should have done like hole punched hole stencils, so I could have like perfect circles that I could brush on or sponge on or airbrush on. But I didn't, because I just kind of cracked on with it and I didn't really have a plan. These are, these aren't going to be, these aren't much more than prototypes. These are just like fun ideas. The point is not to make a polished factory-like product. The point is to experiment and have fun. So I deliberately left two sides opposing each other blank for the 1 and the 6. In a previous attempt to do something fun with these big dice, I carved a skull into one face of it and a 6 on the other side. The wood is great wood for carving. I think it's base wood. But I don't have very good wood carving tools, so it was a huge pain, and I haven't really been able to get the kind of quality results that I wanted. So I changed plans, and the new plan is painting. So this is one of the ones that I painted. It's got 6 eye holes. Hopefully that's obvious that it's a 6. Hopefully that one's obvious. It's a 1. And doing a tiny little painting like this in acrylics is it's actually quite possible. It's a bit of a fiddle, but that's all right. I'm used to painting miniatures. So what I need here is I need a plan. And I think the plan I want to start with is very, very gently marking out the center point. This is just eyeballing it. I'm going to be a millimeter or two off. Hopefully that won't be too much of a problem. Now, the question is, what do I want to do? I didn't think that far ahead. So I think I'm just going to Karl Kopinski it, which is like John Blanching it, but a bit different. And I'm just going to sort of I've got a rough idea of something that might be interesting, and I'm just going to make a very loose gestural sketch. I don't know if that's coming up on camera. Let me zoom in a bit. You should be able to see that okay. Is it going to change focus to my hands? No. Okay, we're doing all right. So I'm thinking just very roughly a kind of... You can't go wrong with skulls now, can you? You really can't. So hopefully it's nice and obvious what the plan is here. Now, I don't have a Posca paint pen because recently I bought one and then I left it at the counter in the shop where I bought one like an absolute ding dong. So a 0.7mm Posca paint pen would be absolutely perfect for this job. However, I don't have one because I'm an idiot. So my very loose plan is I've got the figure of a head with some horns here. Kind of looks like Willem Dafoe cast as Mephistopheles to me, which would be absolutely hilarious. I'm not going to go for a portrait of Willem Dafoe without reference, but you know, we can stick with like the general vibe, which is big eyes, wide cheekbones, kind of a very angled jaw. He would love it. If you had an opportunity to cast Willem Dafoe as Mephistopheles, you cannot tell me he would not absolutely relish it. He knows what he looks like. He knows what kind of films he gets cast for, and I think he enjoys. Maybe he's tired of the being typecast, but he can't be that tired because he keeps doing it. And surely he could just not do it if he didn't want to by now, being successful and famous. He just loves being creepy old guy. He's been creepy old guy ever since he wasn't even that old. How old was he in that Spider-Man film? Not old. Not much older than I am now. Haunting thought. All the things I could have been and am not. I think let's sort of cartoony that one up a little bit. This is kind of the way I would draw many years ago when I was doing tattoos. You know, I'd have main element, I'd have, I don't know, devil face, tail, pitchfork, and then I'd arrange them into like an iconic sort of vaguely triangular or rhomboid design for oh, I forgot the word. When you arrange elements in a picture. Composition. For compositional reasons. Because this drawing is dang small though, it would be fully impossible to tattoo with any kind of fidelity over time. If you did this as a tattoo, it would last not long enough. I always liked the old saying, how long should a tattoo last? Death plus 1 day. Death and then some beyond. Like, which is not what you... it is going to blur, a tattoo is. Over time, there's no question of it. It simply is just how human biology works. If your design is not very simplified, it is not going to remain readable forever. And at some point, it will become a largely unrecognizable mess. That's why if you want complex design, you have to go bigger. You have to go, I don't know, the whole side of your leg, your whole back, your whole bicep, something. You can't just have a complex design in a small space. It does not last. And while tattooing is definitely an ephemeral art form, you don't have to take the piss. The devil. Do you think if I gave the devil an eye patch, it would be emphatic? You know, that it's the one face, and as a result, you know, people would interpret the one eye more clearly as the number one. I have to say the devil looks freaking rad with an eye patch. I have a friend who wears an eye patch for medical reasons, and every time I see him, I think I really should do like a sweet freaking custom eye patch with all like, I don't know, like anarchist satanic shit on it. You'd love that. Absolutely hilarious. Right, so the amount of pencil I put on this is going to be not fully erasable as a practical matter. Got me a trusty putty rubber right there. However, fully erasable is not required. I just want to take any excess off so that it's not too much of a pain in the ass to paint over. Right, now I'm going to set up my palette. Assuming I can find my darn paint. There we go. So this is the paint I like to use for doing tiny little paintings. It's very pigmented. It's got a really great thin-ish texture. It's got a texture of cream. I really like using it, but I forget to use it all the time. It doesn't quite airbrush. If you diluted it enough, it would of course airbrush. But I have acrylic ink for that. This is for teeny weeny paintings. Makes a fabulous travel set because these bottles, they last you forever because you only need a tiny little bit unless you're scooshing it all over the shop. Right, obviously that's a give me. A lot of the yellow color on this dice is this yellow paint, or yellow ochre paint. Naturally, we need that. This paint set is fairly minimal. I don't have a lot of paints that I don't definitely need. So, in this paint set, do I need blue? I might. Right, so much for you know, being very selective about what ones I use, like an idiot. This is an old tobacco tin. Pencil shavings inside. It's because I'm very lazy and I don't want to walk to the bin every time I need to sharpen a pencil. Because if I did that, I'd be walking to the bin all the damn time because I need to sharpen a pencil all the damn time. I'm just cleaning the dust off it with a bit of kitchen roll. That's right, no thank you dust. So this is a brush that I bought. It's a Raphael synthetic number 0. As you can see, the paint go. The brushes on the paintbrush, the bristles are ludicrously tiny. It is not helpful. I have actually never used this brush before. I bought it because I thought size 0 would be more like, hang on, more like this one. This is a Jackson's brand sable brush. This one is, I think it's also a 0. But as you can see, you know, the variation between size 0 is big. There's a lot of darn variation. This one has twice the thickness and certainly twice the length. Also, this one is long as heck. Look at that, it's a full-length brush. Miniature brushes are usually way shorter. However, because I bought this, I will be damned if I never use it. I'm doing a miniature painting. Ooh. Doing a miniature painting is probably the best time to use such a thing. Alright, I'll zoom in on the work again. If you've ever painted miniature models and such like, and you don't put a little bit on your thumb, did you really paint miniature models? This is like your secondary palette. This is your wipe off zone. And it's your thumbnail. This video is 16 minutes and 25 seconds at this point. I'm never going to be able to shrink this small enough for Instagram. At 8 times speed, I think that's probably fast enough, fast forwarding. At this point in time, I have 2 patrons. On Patreon. And I am, of course, tremendously grateful to both of them, both Matt and Zach. Very kind and supportive gentlemen they are. And I haven't been able to do my normal Patreon routine because of the preparations for the convention, because of the school holidays. So I'm, spending all day with my kid, who I love, of course, and I want to spend all day with her, but it does preclude work, unfortunately. A lot of parents in the world know how that feels. So, they've been patient, accommodating, and I think what I should do, probably, is send them some stuff. They live overseas, so it's international shipping. But what the heck? They deserve it. Question is, should I do them some dice? I know they both like D6 based games. And, nothing says that you're enjoying a D6 based game like a comically oversized, custom painted D6. Makes me think I should do like a t-shirt design that says something like the old-fashioned way. D6s being probably the oldest type of dice. I have seen some really old things that looked like dice, but I think they were ancient Greek teaching models for other three-dimensional geometric forms, like various sorts of polyhedrons. So yeah, each of these bad boys is an individual, highly customized personal artwork, which is fully irreplicable because they are all original paintings. If I end up doing a lot of them, what I might do... have to wash my brush, I'm getting a bit of a gunk up. If I make a lot of them, what I might do is I might make some custom stencils, you know, tiny little stencils for myself. And I would do that in the old-fashioned sort of a way. Cardboard and sponges, maybe. Just to make the mass manufacturing easier, but still keep it, because I can't realistically do an hour-long painting 2 times each dice and still have them be a small amount of money. That's just not how commerce works. It wouldn't be sustainable, and it would be an insult to myself. But I could do a design once and then replicate it many times with a stencil. In any case, I think Matt and Zach being my original 2 patrons, I think they'll be getting original painted on dice. I think that's a fun thing to do for a while. There's a lot of fun about doing little improvisational tiny portraits. Oh, fudge. Oh, double fudge. Oh well, at least that bit's getting blacked out anyway. And here we go. So now we've done all the initial outlines, now we're just going to beef up some of the other outlines to make what do you call it? Spatial value separation. Not sure if that's the right word or not. Planar separation, perhaps. I just need a beefier outline so that they look like they're on different layers. Bit the old fading value gradient. That's a good word for it. Doing value gradients with acrylic paint it's great. It works really, really well. All you have to do is put down a little bit of water on the surface you want to do a gradient on, and then work into it with a Just a dab of paint, a tiny dab of paint. So long as you're doing it on a fully sealed surface, a surface that's not absorbent, like a surface that's already had paint on it, like a background color perhaps, it works out really nicely. If you don't have a sealed surface, like fresh wood or fresh paper, there are also ways to do it. You just have to be a bit craftier and treat it more like watercolors. Alright, I'm going to give that a quick blast with the heat gun. I'm keeping it at a distance. Keeping it at a distance because if you put it too close, it is a heat gun for removing acrylic paint. So it will just blister and remove the paint. However, if you use it from 20 to 30 centimeters away, it just heats it up steadily in a slow, controllable fashion. Absolutely spot on, perfect. I'm going to switch brushes for no particular reason, just because I feel like it. This old sable brush I'm very familiar with and I like it a lot. So, back to the comfort zone. And because we're going for the, the classic bright red Mephistopheles fella, we're going to give him a base coat all over with pure red. This is a cadmium red medium hue. I generally don't use real metal pigments in my painting because I have never needed that level of highly specific paint color. The hue variations have always been good enough. The difference between a cadmium hue and a cadmium genuine is cadmium genuine contains the real particles of the actual heavy metal cadmium. Usually a cadmium oxide of some kind, I think. And the color of it is way more intense. The tinting strength of it, that's the, a given amount of it tints a given amount of white. The tinting strength of it is way more intense. A small bit of it goes an awful lot further. It would be cool to have some, but I cannot justify the extra price because I do not make a lot of money. 20 or 30 quid for a tiny little bottle of paint? Well, I can't justify it. One day, I'd like to. Be nice. So what I did was a classic acrylic paint technique. You start out with a thinned version, then you go in with a less thin version again to firm up the mid-tones. I would call this like mid-tone light, and I'm working into it with mid-tone, actually mid-tone. And then I will make a mixture with just a little bit of some other color, like, do I want brown or blue? Do I want a more purpley sort of a Mephistopheles or a grungy sort of Mephistopheles? It's looking kind of bright and fun at the moment, so maybe I want the purpley version. Maybe I was right to get the blue out for a reason. This is definitely looking more Futurama. That's fine. This is cerulean blue chromium. It's not a hue. It contains, you can see there, oxides of cobalt and chromium. This is the real metal deal. But for some reason, this one was affordable. It might have a bit of filler in it. I'm not confident. I don't think Golden would do that to us. Golden is a reputable company which produces high quality stuff. I just don't know why it was affordable. In any case, I am starting with the red on my palette and adding a little bit of blue to make a purple, which is on the red side of the spectrum. Nice and easy shading technique. Some people they start with the dark and they go light, but my paints are all pretty much all transparent, so it just does not work for me. I like transparent paint the most. I'm used to it. I'm very used to it because that's how watercolors work. I've spent many years painting with watercolor. Right, and I obviously need a darker mix, so I can add more blue, and it becomes much more decidedly purple. Does Mephistopheles have eye bags? You can bet he does. There we go, instant eye bags. So there we go, we've got the light base coat for the lightest parts. We've got the medium base coat for the most of it. Got a light shade. And then a darker shade. That's pretty much the technique for any area. Right, next job. Eyes and teeth, I guess. Obviously, they will have to be yellow. It's got all over my thumb. Probably die without kitchen room. Right, so same process. Slightly dilute. Should that be a bluish kind of metallic color, do you think? Or is that introducing unnecessary elements? Well, I can always change my mind later. Another great thing about acrylic paint, very forgiving medium. You can just wipe it out and start again if you want. And while that paint is still wet, I can work into it mixed up a little orange here. Alright, I'll let that dry and I'll work on another section. God, all my paint's escaping today. Look at that, what a big blob. That's going to take forever to put back in. I really enjoy yellow ochre. One of my favourite, most flexible colours. Gosh, the paint's getting all over the shop today. Maybe they've been on their side too long. So yellow ochre, added just a tiny wee bit of Van Dyke brown. Van Dyke brown is maybe my favourite universally helpful sort of shading brown. Mix it into anything, it seems to work nicely. I think we need a little bit of black in that mixture to desaturate it, and then we can use it to do this. Just thinly glazing the area behind the trident should help it stand out from the background. Lately I have come to really enjoy when I'm painting to do unsmooth backgrounds. To get a smooth background you need paint, you know, a good puddle of paint, a good size soft brush, and you go plap, 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 make a nice smooth gradient maybe. But I've lately come to think that I really like this subtle sort of texture that you get in background areas where you work into them with a brush that's honestly a bit small for the job. And you have to push the paint around. I've come to like it because that little extra bit of texture is very fun. It's nice to look at. Years ago, in a theatre show, I was told that when you're doing makeup on the theatre characters, if you have like a villainous character, you want to give them really bright red lipstick, as you possibly can, because it makes their teeth look yellower. And all the time when I'm painting, I think about that. Well, not all the time, but you know, a lot of times when I'm painting, I think about that. I think about red next to yellow makes the yellow look yellower. I think it's true of a lot of colours. You just need to find for every colour there is a colour that makes it look more like itself. Red does that for a lot of colours. Yellow does that for blue for sure. Don't want to put the red too close to its face, otherwise it might look like more of a mistake. There's some neat yellow in on the trident just to increase the saturation overall. This is probably too goofy for a slightly serious game, but I haven't met very many role-playing games that were serious the whole way through. So I'm gonna let myself call this one a victory anyway. We're near the end, but I need to make that trident pop just a little bit more. I'm gonna use some desaturated yellow ochre to do that. We need a very thin application of it though. There we go. And last but not least, we're going to have another quick blast with the heat gun. Oops. And then we can put on the highest highlights are always a nice bit to put on. They're also always a severe temptation to overdo them. Just needed that little extra yellow tone in there just to kind of make it look more fleshy than plasticky. Probably ought to have thought about that before now, but oh well. All right. Is this done? You know you're getting near to the end when you're looking for things that need to be done rather than knowing what needs to be done. And one of the great things about looking at your painting through a camera is that it works like a reducing lens, which is an old-fashioned tool for helping you see what's wrong with your painting. And I think what's been wrong with this painting is just a few bits that need to be reinforced. The rest of the painting looks relatively three-dimensional, and other bits look a little bit too flat and cell shading like. So they need to be given some extra contrast and detail so they look more three-dimensional. Again, the Van Dyke brown is really helpful for that because it's not so intense as black, and it's not so dull. It's a perfect shade tone. The transparency helps you blending it in. Well done, Van Dyke. Great job, man. Aye, good job, Van Dyke. Don't know who he was, but maybe he should have been a good painter. He certainly had a way with paint. Now, if I were doing proper optical colour theory, we'd want some red on that trident for reflections. Hopefully that won't be too much of a problem. If I apply some red, hopefully it will look good and not bad. Not too shabby. I'm going to call this one done, and if I look at it later on and see anything that's obvious, I can fix it then. I hope you've enjoyed my assorted rambling. I hope you've enjoyed just listening to me. I'll be able to make a short version of this video, and I've found a great place, a great website to put on music, which is easy to download, easy to use in video editing software. That's been an issue because a lot of the music providing sites that I've found are subscription based rather than buy one track that you like, and a lot of them are also just a huge hassle to use. They're obviously intended for dedicated professionals, which I'm not. I'm not a professional music guy, shockers. So, but now that I've found a website that's helpful, Free Music Archive, it's very easy to use, and hopefully that means that I can make my videos more interesting without having to drive myself to madness doing it. I'll see you all soon. Have a good night.